hỡi các đại nghĩa sĩ tân dân chủ, hỡi các anh chị em máu thịt Việt Nam. Chúng ta do dân tộc mà hình thành, vì dân chúng mà đấu tranh. Đứng dậy này, truyền cho đến mãi mãi muôn muôn về sau, là màu mỡ cho đất đai, là kết tụ của tiếng Việt, là tự hào, là di sản cho con cháu. Tinh và hồn luôn luôn cùng sông núi. Sống thì phải cho lẫm liệt, mà thác cũng phải đáng tự hào, bất khuất và hùng anh.
Trân trọng kính mời Đức Quốc công Đào Minh Quân, Tổng thống Việt Nam Cộng hòa đệ tam, cùng tất cả quý đồng nhiệm trong chính phủ quốc gia Việt Nam lâm thời đệ tam Việt Nam Cộng hòa, làm lễ chào quốc kỳ quốc ca Việt Nam Cộng hòa. Bắt đầu.
Cả chú ơi, chào tôi, chào.
Này công dân ơi, đứng lên đáp lời sông núi, đồng lòng cùng đi hy sinh tiếc gì hơn sao, vì tương lai quốc dân cùng sống và khói tinh, làm sao cho núi sông từ nay luôn vững bền, cho thấy phơi trên gương dao.
Chúng tôi trân trọng kính chào Đức Quốc công Đào Minh Quân, Tổng thống Việt Nam Cộng hòa đệ tam, và kính chào quý khán giả. Trân trọng kính mời Đức Quốc công và quý vị cùng chúng tôi nghiêm trang dâng lời cầu nguyện. Chúng con là các thành viên đồng nhiệm của Chính phủ Quốc gia Việt Nam lâm thời đệ tam Việt Nam Cộng hòa. Nguyện xin đấng tối cao, Thượng Đế, Trời Phật và hồn thiêng sông núi, các bậc tiền nhân anh hùng dựng nước và giữ nước, xin phù hộ độ trì ban phước lành cho chúng con, xin che chở cho đất nước và đồng bào thân yêu của chúng con được thoát khỏi cộng sản và nạn chiến tranh tàn phá. Xin bảo vệ Đức Quốc công Tổng thống Đào Minh Quân và tất cả những nhà ái quốc chân chính. Xin cho chúng con thêm khôn ngoan, đoàn kết, nhẫn nại, can đảm, sáng suốt để cùng với Chính phủ Quốc gia Việt Nam lâm thời đệ tam Việt Nam Cộng hòa dẫn đưa dân tộc Việt Nam vượt qua cơn hiểm nghèo đến bến bờ hạnh phúc, vinh quang, trường cửu, mọi nhà được an hưởng thái bình, thịnh trị của thời Thượng Ngôn Thánh Đức. Xin gìn giữ và tôi luyện cho chúng con tinh thần Việt Nam chân chính. Sống thì phải cho lẫm liệt, mà thác cũng phải đáng tự hào, bất khuất và hùng anh, đúng theo gương sáng của vị lãnh đạo tinh thần của chúng con đã tuyên xưng.
Nam được thái bình, đem ấm no cho dân ta hết một đời lầm than. Việt Nam tân dân chủ, triệu người đồng tâm đi tới, khắp chốn muôn nơi đem tâm huyết tỏ thắm núi sông, xóa bóng đêm đêm cho dân có nhân quyền tự do. Vương chi tiến bước, dân Việt Nam anh dũng kiên cường, tay trong tay ta nào ngày chi muôn vàn gian khó. Thắp sáng ánh đuốc tân Việt Nam soi sáng muôn nhà, cho tương lai thăng hoa nước.
Republic of Vietnam. Provisional National Government of Vietnam. Standing Office. Regain ancestral land, end populist sufferings. P.O. Box 2807, Anaheim, California, 92814. From the past to the present. Dulling attitude. April 14, 2023. The 43rd President of the United States, George W. Bush, once described himself as a benevolent conservative during his 2000 presidential campaign. And it was also he who confirmed the great mistake of the US in withdrawing troops, causing millions of South Vietnamese and Cambodians to suffer the bloodbath of the Communists. They had to risk their lives to leave the country in search of freedom, causing the Boat People movement to be earth-shattering, unique, bloody, and the most tragic in human history. This tragedy prompted Jimmy Carter, the 39th President of the United States of America, to order U.S. aircraft carriers and ships to take refugees on boats that had just escaped from Indochina and would allow this group of refugees to settle in the United States. At this time in 1980, there were about 172,000 Indochinese refugees who were allowed to enter the United States after the North Vietnamese Communists robbed South Vietnam on April 30, 1975. During the inauguration of the president on January 20, 2005, George W. Bush was instructed to recite the oath by Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court William Rehnquist. His inaugural address focused on the theme of developing freedom and democracy around the world. The vital interests of America and the deepest convictions of the American people are one. Since our founding days, we have proclaimed that everyone living on the land has incomparable rights, personalities, and dignity because they bear the image of the Creator of heaven and earth. Over the generations, we proclaim the command of autonomy right, because no one is a slave owner, nor is anyone a slave. Upholding these ideals is the mission of all of us. It is for this mission that our nation was born. That is the glorious merits of the ancestors. Today, it is an urgent request for the security of the country and a call for our time. But was that mistake due to the withdrawal of troops? To get a relative answer, let's try and look together at the situation in Vietnam since the French colonialists withdrew and Prime Minister NGOA Dinh returned to lead the country. Although on forums and even Wikipedia by free or self-writers. But freedom does not mean honesty from both sides. Because the nationalists are busy making a living and taking care of their families and children, they can't participate in public forums often. Instead, the Vietnamese communists and their ghostwriters are bribed with money to spread fake news on media networks like Wikipedia. Therefore, the crooks painted the late President Diem as a tool and henchman of the United States. They also disguised his affair with the wife of Councillor NGOA Dinh Nhu, Madame Trien. They also pretended to mistakenly call Madame Tran Thile Chien the wife of President Diem. In fact, President NGOA Dinh Diem was the youngest minister in the Nguyen court at that time. During this time, he was elected Secretary General to head the Administrative Reform Commission. He proposed 2 points to be corrected with the French colonial authorities. The first is to unify the Central and the North according to the Treaty of Jipthan 1884. The second is to give the People's Institute of Central Vietnam the right to freely discuss issues, including politics. The unification of the two regions was mainly to force the French protectorate government to abolish the ambassador of Central Vietnam and the governor of the North and establish a single institute of immigration, resident general, in Hue only. The second is to renew the old way of governing. But the French did not accept, so he resigned from the position of minister on July 12, 1933, only 3 months after taking office. NGO Dinh Diem also condemned Emperor Bao Dai. He is nothing but a tool in the hands of the French. He threw away the medals and titles given to him by Bao Dai, so the French colonialists threatened to catch and banish him. The revolutionary Phan Boi Chau himself also had a poem dedicated to the late President Ngo Dinh Diem published in the Tieng Dan newspaper, due to Mr. Diem's resignation, including these sentences. Exposed to the sky, your liver is always red, not afraid of the power. Regardless of the ground at dusk, your eyes are always black, don't care about profit. If we are at the same time, I would like to be your soul mate. I, Chow, will whip after your horse. Later, the entire people participated in the referendum to depose Bao Dai and elect Mr. Ngo Dinh Diem as the first president of the Republic of Vietnam. South Vietnam, a country newly independent from the French colonialists, a land full of the smell of gunpowder, with indigenous forces who have not clearly defined the right to govern and run the country, absolutely no one who obeys orders, where there are still powerful nationalist parties such as Vietnam Nationalist Party, Viet Quoc, Dai Viet, Tu Dan, Cao Dai, Hoa Hao, and Bin Chuyen, etc. But only during his 9 years in power, President Diem quickly pacified the territory, bringing an abundant, prosperous, and stable life to the people. In nearly 100 years, has the whole world had a leader more talented than President Diem? However, a country with talents and virtues also has tragic circumstances. Therefore, in 1963, rebel generals received 3 million dongs from U.S. counterintelligence Lieutenant Colonel Lucien Conian to put on a coup and bring about the tragic deaths of President Diem and his brother, advisor Ngo Dinh Nhu. According to Wikipedia, at 13:30 p.m. on November 1, 1963, CIA agent Lucien Conian entered the General Staff, carrying a special transmitter to communicate with the U.S. Embassy and a bag of 3 million dongs of the Republic of Vietnam, RVND, to support the implementation of the coup with the promise that the United States would not do anything to protect Ngo Dinh Diem. According to the Vietnamese witness of Tran Van Don, the generals such as Tran Tien Kim received 500,000 RVND, Ton That Dinh received 600,000 RVND, Colonel Lien Nguyen King received 100,000 RVND, Colonel Nguyen Van Thieu received 50,000 RVND, and Colonel Tran Ngoc the mayor of Dalat received 100,000 RVND, all with clear receipts. The remaining amount was divided among Duong Van Minh, Le Van Kim, Nguyen Hue Seo, Du Cao Tri, Nguyen Con, and Tran Ngoc Tam. Soon after, Duong Van Minh asked all generals to participate in the coup. Henry Cabot Lodge, Jr., the U.S. ambassador to the Republic of Vietnam, after learning of the planned coup attempt by the generals of the Army of the Republic of Vietnam, led by General Duong Van Minh, reported to the President of the United States for his opinion. The meeting minute dated October 29, 1963, between U.S. President John F. Kennedy and his advisors, showed that the U.S. President, after meeting with 15 senior diplomatic advisors and national security experts, failed to come up with an ideal consensus on this issue but let the U.S. ambassador, Henry Cabot Lodge, Jr., have to improvise. In Washington, Secretary of State Dean Rusk communicated the decision to Ambassador Lodge in Saigon. Lodge informed CIA officer Lucien Conian, who had the rank of lieutenant colonel, a CIA agent, and became the contact point between the U.S. Embassy and the coup generals, led by Tran Van Don. On October 3, 1963, Conian met with General Min, who informed him of the coup's intention and asked for American support if it was successful. In the Vietnam documentary The 10,000 Day War, directed by Michael McLear, CIA agent Lucien Conian recounted that, when informed of the coup attempt, he said, "The order I received was this: I must let General Min know that the U.S. government will not hinder their coup, and I have communicated this." Conian then secretly met with General Tran Van Don to tell him that the United States opposed any assassination attempt. General Don replied, "Okay, if you don't like that, we won't talk about it anymore." According to Wikipedia, the coup on November 1, 1963, was supported by the U.S. due to the fact that the government of President NGO did not make political changes as recommended by the U.S., leading to conflicts with the U.S. government. The U.S. supported the coup generals. Another reason was given because the government of President Diem advocated independence from the Americans, while the U.S. wanted to control the government of the Republic of Vietnam. However, many people immediately saw the deception of ghostwriters on Wikipedia when they fallaciously stated that the power of the First Republic was concentrated on 5 members of President Ngo Diem's family, called nepotism, including 1. Ngo Dinh Nhu, the person who has no position other than the political advisor task of his brother, NGO president, was accused by the Vietnamese of being the commander of the ruling apparatus. 2. Tran Thile Chien, the wife of Mr. Councillor Ngo Dinh Nhu, just a member of the National Assembly, was accused of lewdness and manipulating the president without evidence. 3. Ngo Dinh Can, the younger brother of President Ngo Diem and Ngo Dinh Nhu, a naive man who only stayed at home in Phu Kem village to take care of his parents on behalf of the brothers, was accused of being a central terrorist boss. 4. Archbishop Ngo Dinh Thuc, he was just a monk, did not hold any administrative or political positions in the first mechanism of the Republic of Vietnam, and was accused by the Vietnamese communists of being the supreme advisor of the regime. 5. Ngo Dinh Nguyen, the youngest brother of the Ngo Dinh family, is the ambassador of the First Republic of Vietnam to England, the Netherlands, Belgium, and Tunisia. When the coup in 1963 broke out, he was lucky to escape death because he was abroad. But after the coup d'état and the murder of President Ngo Diem, our country fell into a dark state. Even though the second president, Nguyen Van Thieu, together with the army, officials, and politicians of the Republic of Vietnam, could only protect the South for 9 years and then fall into the hands of the invading communists. The Communist Party of Vietnam had received massive aid in weapons and ammunition from Russia and China. Meanwhile, the United States stopped aid to the Second Republic of Vietnam, including weapons and ammunition at the most critical moment. So, on April 30, 1975, the country was invaded by the Vietnamese Communists. They took over South Vietnam to enjoy all the good results built up by the sweat and blood of the army and people of the First and Second Republics of Vietnam. Today, there is no doubt about the almost blatant invasion of Chinese communists on American land and around the world by economic means. Or, to be more precise, Chinese goods are flooding the world market, most of which are in the U.S., a huge and lucrative consumer market with cheap and confusing prices, including everything from upper gold to low bran, but most of these goods contain more or less harmful chemicals. According to a World Bank report, from 1978 to 1995, China's GDP grew at an average annual rate of 9.4%, which helped China save thousands of its state-owned companies that were being lost. Since 1997, thanks to the increase in exports and the decrease in imports, the policy of only one child per family has brought a foreign currency surplus to China annually of $17.8 billion, helping to save assets in the country by $121.2 billion. That is not to mention foreign investment capital, most of which is from the US, which has rushed in like water. And the reason that China became rich quickly is also largely thanks to the sweat and blood of over 200 million workers on cheap socialist wages. In short, the fact that the Chinese communists are opening a chemical war to destroy humanity in the form of food and household items is not propaganda or slander to compete for power between countries, but rather a historical, scientifically confirmed fact about defects in most products manufactured by China. All have the ability to kill people, not only from food and drink, medicine, toothpaste, and cosmetics, but also from car covers, children's toys, clothes, blankets, and food raised for livestock. In order to achieve maximum profit, China has defied the economic rules that it had promised when it was accepted into the International Trade Organization WTO. They used the chemical embalming agent formaldehyde or sulfoxide, defoliants, pesticides, and a variety of other chemicals, which are the cause of incurable diseases, tumors, and cancer. All these toxins are now found in most products manufactured by China, such as artificial seafood, eels, crabs, snails, oysters, and 70 kinds of fish, which contain more or less the cancer-causing chemicals malachite green and nitrofurans. China is also a manufacturing hub for fake or substandard medicines, including anti-malarial drugs and fake toothpaste that steal samples from U.S. toothpaste manufacturers such as Colgate, Rest, etc. with glycol chemicals with antifreeze effects, including anti-avian flu drugs and fake Viagra drugs made in the U.S. All of the above items are sold everywhere in the United States, but no one has demonstrated or protested for decades. However, humanity has witnessed the shaking heaven and earth changes in the last years of the 20th century and the beginning of the 21st century, which are mistakes in the reform process led to the collapse of the citadel of communism in the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe, leading to the decline of the communist regime and the unions motivated by the communists. Meanwhile, capitalism has had new adjustments and adaptations to develop, which has helped many people wake up, most of whom are cadres, soldiers, and International Communist Party members, including the Vietnamese communists. They were radically shaken, disoriented, and doubted the model and the upward path of socialism, which are only passively created products of communism. They have felt that the things of proletarian internationalism, communism, and socialism are all hopeless, only bringing oppression, poverty, and human degradation, especially after the truth about the Yunnan bandit Ho Chi Minh pretending to be Vietnamese was stripped naked by Imperial Duke and patriots at UNESCO in 1990. The question is, what path will humanity and our nation take to achieve the aspiration of peace for everyone, prosperity for the country, and happiness for each individual? The answer to that question has never been beyond the conclusion of the fall of the communist regime and the victory of the new democracy movement, which is the path to peace for humanity, as in Imperial Duke's manifest in 1987, 36 years ago. Because communism still carries with it serious diseases, whose roots are rooted in inherent struggles or contradictions associated with its atheistic and immoral nature, it uses only exploiting, with its deceitful, cruel, dishonest, and brutal acts, though subtly concealed by propaganda that the rogue media are bribed with, through the radio networks, the radio stations, television, etc. But the truth about the foundation of the communist regime with its 3 NOS, no family, no country, and no religion. It must surely be destroyed by the evolution and awareness of civilization, advanced and upward, in humanity. The nature of that kind of toxic communism must have produced a scum, filthy, dangerous parasite disguised as the authority to oppress and dominate the people, but can still overcome the intellectuals' weaseltail grass or the rulers led by the leaders who are greedy for fame and gain, don't really pay attention to the people's lives, don't dare to participate in the improvement of the people and contemporary society, are still trading, and blindly accept the disguised communist regime, as in Russia, China, or Vietnam today. Even the actions of the Vietnamese Communist group have clearly demonstrated their atheism, dictatorship, party rule, corruption, selling the country, harming the people, and commitment to being henchmen of China and Russia, led by a bunch of idiots who are uncultured, corrupt, incompetent, and unethical, advocating the destruction of freedom, human rights, and religion in order to survive. Some beliefs, such as Catholicism, Buddhism, Protestantism, CAO Dai, and Hoa Hao, are suppressed and controlled by them throughout Vietnam. They also openly rob land and property belonging to religions to destroy beliefs. They have destroyed the statues of Jesus, Shakyamuni Buddha, Mother Mary, and Guanyin Buddha, destroyed masses and religious ceremonies, and at the same time persecuted, harassed, tortured, and imprisoned in an extremely brutal and inhumane way the religious leaders, archbishops, bishops, priests, venerables, Buddhists, monks, and nuns systematically. The Vietnamese Communists not only persecute the people, but they also maliciously make our people poor, a poverty that dehumanizes and destroys morality. It's so poor that our women are tortured when being sold as sex slaves to men, so the Chinese and Korean guys freely torture and beat Vietnamese women. The Vietnamese Communists also arrested, detained, and interrogated those who fought for freedom and human rights. They even let thugs and villains monitor, kidnap, and enforce the law of the jungle, then imprison them to harm members of the PNGVN, who are legal citizens and true patriots. However, the delegations of the so-called civilized and liberal governments still turned a blind eye, still coming to shake hands with this communist authority. Maybe they wanted to use the way to make thieves and robbers more profitable so that they would be less likely to plunder and kill people. Could it be that they wanted to use it to increase profits for thieves and robbers so that they would be less likely to plunder and kill? This approach has made many people mistakenly believe that the Communist Party of Vietnam is a government, so the number of crooks, those who want to be safe, and the overseas Vietnamese community only have to find a way to work as humane, religious, or social aid to comfort their own conscience, or have to keep silent, bow their heads, or even dare not support the PNGVN. The PNGVN is a mechanism established by 3 generations of elders, middle-aged Vietnamese, and youth Vietnamese on October 21, 1990, to help the people, save the country, and bring Vietnam to an equal footing with advanced countries in the world, achieving the aspiration of peace for everyone, prosperity for the country, and happiness for each individual. When the Communists were still in power, Vietnamese society continued to be full of crimes, and more Vietnamese boys were forced to work as laborers from all over the world, and Vietnamese girls had to be sex slaves for foreigners. Their children can't study but drag themselves onto the streets to earn food. They don't have enough food, don't have enough clothes to wear, have no tomorrow, and don't know anything about their future. These are awards and commendations for senior officials of major powers who are excitedly coming to Vietnam to trade with the communist group. Let's ask, the free civilized powers, the Vatican Holy See, the Bishops' Conference, the archbishops, the bishops, the state-owned priests, Buddhist monks, venerable masters, the venerables, the Vietnamese monks and nuns in Vietnam or overseas, do you deserve to be people who respect human rights, children of God, disciples of Buddha, when you are only silent and did not dare to denounce the crimes of the communist government in front of the world community, did not dare to publicly voice support the PNGVN, Third RVN. Even the delegation of European parliamentarians to Vietnam can only say in a low voice that they are disappointed because Vietnam, i.e., Vietnamese communists, has not improved human rights as committed in the EFTA, the EU-Vietnam Free Trade Agreement, but they did not dare to speak out strongly to denounce the crimes of violating civil rights, human rights, and religious freedom of the Vietnamese communists. While the ideology and policy of love and service of the democracy are developing quietly but very strongly, there is an accumulated aspiration for freedom, democracy, justice, and equality, which is the main need and motivation to blow up the communist regime when it reaches its limit. Of course, this limit is not determined when or under what circumstances. But surely the hurricane full of love and humanity will come to wash away the unethical, atheist communist regime. Currently, the people are jubilantly welcoming the light of new democracy with an increasing number of referendum votes. When this number of votes exceeds 20 million, or when Imperial Duke is crowned Emperor of Dai Viet, communism and the communist regime in Vietnam will be eliminated. The sunlight of the dawn of hope, love, happiness, and prosperity will shine brightly and harmoniously over the Vietnamese homeland. Best regards. Standing Office, PNGVN.
Đào Minh Quân anh hùng cứu nguy dân Việt, quên thân mình ngày ngày chung lo việc nước. Một lời thề vì dân chiến đấu, không ngại ngùng vì nước hy sinh cho muôn đời tổ quốc quang vinh. Việt Nam Đào Minh Quân, dân đang chờ ngày vui no ấm, xóa tan bao lỗi lầm than. Việt Nam Đào Minh Quân, xây cơ đồ hồn thiên sông núi, ánh dương lên soi sáng khắp địa cầu.